My father was always abusive. He was always a terrible father. As a child, he tried to turn me against my mother for no reason other than he felt jealous of our closeness. When he found out I was gay, the abuse got even worse. He beat me, verbally abused me, and so on. I escaped his house in my early 20s, and I thrived away from him. I went to university, became a teacher, got a little place of my own, furbished it slowly over time. It was great. In the meantime, he sold everything and started living on the road, out of hotels, traveling the country. I occasionally heard of him from my sister. That's how I know that. But then, when I was in my late 20s, the pandemic hit. I lost my job and couldn't afford to pay rent, so I was evicted. The hotels closed, and my dad had to rent a house, but he had no furniture and couldn't afford to buy any, so he was sleeping in an air mattress on the ground. Out of necessity, when completely out of options, I reached out to him and proposed a deal. I had furniture and appliances, but no place to stay. He had a house, but no furniture or appliances. We could combine our resources and help each other out. I wouldn't be a burden to him because the emergency financial aid I was receiving would help me cover my own expenses. Basically, I'd let him use my furniture and appliances, stove, fridge, a couple comfortable beds, and so on, if he let me live with him rent-free. He agreed. During the pandemic, living with him was hell. He is an anti-vaxxer, anti-science stubborn old man who took no preventive measures against COVID. No masks, no social distancing, not even taking showers. Meanwhile, I was an asthmatic nervous wreck, knowing I could die from his incompetence at any given time. He even threatened to willfully expose me to COVID, just to prove a point. All the while, I was allowed 2 hours out of my room a day, mostly for cooking my food. I also wasn't allowed to use the apartment's only bathroom. And the reason he gave me was, I don't want you to contaminate it with AIDS. I'm not HIV positive. I'm just gay. After the emergency financial aid ended, I started living out of gigs and applied for more stable aid, food stamps and so on. My mother, who'd escaped his house with me and stayed by my side this whole time, also started looking for work, despite the fact that she's disabled and it's really difficult for her to work. But finding work was really hard in the small town we'd had to move to during the pandemic for both of us. So we continued to live with Dad. Our living situation changed considerably over time. He picked a fight with our then landlord, and we had to move to a different apartment, though I was still pooping in a bucket. But then I finally secured a stable source of income. It was minimum wage, but it was good enough. I wanted to leave then and there, but my mom convinced me to stay. He's 79 years old, he can't be left on his own, and he helped us during the pandemic. We owe him. She was always too soft on everyone, so I decided to stay and struck a deal with him. We split expenses in half. That gives me autonomy. I will not be treated like a second-class citizen in the house then. I'll have the right to use the bathroom, and he can't yell at me, berate me, or threaten me anymore. He reluctantly agreed. Now before this next part, there's some context you should know. Alcoholism runs in my family. I've been sober for over 12 years, but my father refuses to give up the booze. Well, a couple weeks after our deal, for around lunchtime, the toilet flush broke. Now, the landlord had been abundantly clear when we rented the apartment. If anything breaks, we have to call him. He'll fix it to avoid any further damage. But my dad, drunk since the early morning, decided he could fix it himself. Despite my protests, after hours of failing to fix it and actually making it worse, my father finally agreed to call the landlord. Once the landlord comes in with the trusted handyman, my dad, now angry and sloshed out of his mind, picks a fight with the handyman. I try to hold him back because I really don't want to lose this apartment, and he takes that as an affront. There, in front of everyone, my mom, the handyman, even the landlord. He tells me to get out of his house, tells me he is tired of my disrespect and how I undermine his authority. He even tried to slap me, but I didn't beg. I didn't cower. I didn't do whatever it was that he was expecting. I told him, I'll be out of your house by the end of the week, and immediately turned to the landlord and said, I can pay you amount a month. Do you have anything in this price range? And he, who was visibly uncomfortable to witness all this, told me yes. I hadn't even seen the place, and told him, I'll take it. Over the next couple days, I started packing, at which point my dad realized that he'd fucked up, as I started packing pots and pans and disassembling furniture. What are you doing? Packing my things. But I need that. That's not my problem. First, he tried to change his tone, tell me he'd forgiven me and that I didn't have to leave, but I told him, oh, I'm leaving. He then tried to claim the furniture and appliances were his, and even called the police on me, claiming I was stealing from him. But he didn't account for the fact that I am an OCD son of a bitch and had held on to the receipts of everything I purchased. Plus, I had my mom as a witness that I really did own the furniture. Then he tried social pressure, reaching out to every one of our relatives saying I was abandoning him. I just told them, he kicked me out, I'm just doing what he wanted me to. At the end of the week, I left the apartment with all my furniture and appliances. He didn't have a fridge or a stove or a bed. I didn't even need everything. It didn't fit in my new studio apartment that I currently share with my mother because, like I said, she's disabled and I'm her caregiver. I just sold over half of it. I just didn't want him to have any of it, like the bed he slept in. No way I'm making my mum sleep on that thing again. Or anyone for that matter. That went to the garbage. He went right back to sleeping on an air mattress on the floor. And I could say I don't care, but that would be a lie. I do care. It brings me immense pleasure to know he is fucked. Anyways, it's been 6 months since I went no contact with my dad. I have no idea how he's doing, but I do know he picked a fight with the landlord's son-in-law and is on the verge of being evicted. Fingers crossed he ends up on the street. As for me, I'm living my best life away from his abuse. I'm 31 now, and even my mum is doing better. Though when we first moved out, she called me out for being too cruel with my dad. Anyways, that's my story. Thanks for reading it.